Welcome to the session on agricultural pricing. The main objectives or the learning objectives of this are importance of agricultural pricing, objective of price policy, agricultural price policy, instruments of price policy, cost, commission for agricultural cost and prices, and price formulation mechanism, determination of the support price, concept of the costs, price parity, effect of price policy, benefits of the minimum support price, shortcoming of price policy, measures to control prices in the post-reform period. Importance of agricultural pricing. Agricultural commodities are needed by all for sustenance. If the private marketing system manipulate the pricing and exploit farmers and consumers, that's demand side, the government needs to enter in pricing sector for these commodities in developing countries with a large population with diverse income levels and limited cultivable area like India. The government needed to protect both farmers, that is suppliers, as well as consumers. High agriculture prices help farmers in raising their income but reduce consumers' demand and vice versa. A suitable price policy can help both. In fact, crops prices play an important role in farmers as well as the consumers' decision-making process, while remunerative prices work as incentive for farmers to adopt capital-intensive new production practices, but the high price reduces the consumer's demand for such commodities. These prices need check. Now, objectives of the price policy are agriculture pricing and policy assume a very critical role under price instability and market exploitative situation. The basic objectives of this are as number one, let's say, to increase agriculture production, that is supply, under diverse natural resource conditions through incentive pricing and technology. To smoothen price fluctuation, to support farmers' income through remunerative prices, to ensure affordable food prices to the consumer, to stabilize agriculture prices and ensure better relationship with manufactured goods, to meet domestic demand and processing material demand and also the demand for export. Now, agriculture pricing policy in India is as we will discuss now. See, due to misconduct of marketing by private traders, there was high fluctuation in market for various agricultural commodities after second five-year plan. Some food crops prices rose very high, affecting consumer, and at other times the prices dipped so low that the farmer's income was affected very adversely. Thus, the agriculture intervention through agriculture price policy was felt very urgently to avoid bad law and order situation. In the price policy, conflicting objectives needed proper balancing and assignment of the weights. Agriculture price policy and its instruments have been debated continuously and under the constant evaluation, review and revision from time to time. Until mid-60s, the instrument of price policy was mainly regulation of activities of the private trade, imports and distribution of cereals at below market price. But during late 60s, when new agricultural technology became available, the price policy was assigned positive role for augmenting the availability of food by increasing domestic production. The efforts to increase production was supported through nationalized banks and rural credit institutions like cooperative banks. For sound agriculture economy, three basic fundamental things are production technology package, efficient delivery services and remunerative prices regime. These were very critical. These three things were very critical besides the prices which will help in raising the production of specific commodities. It was thought that because of the inadequate marketing facilities and attitude of traders countrywide, the farmers will not be able to obtain reasonable prices to their produce, even if produce is produced at most efficient level. Thus, offering minimum support price policy was postulated as only one of the main instruments for promoting agriculture growth. In July 2000, Government of India came out with a national agriculture policy. It is long way policy for next 2 decades. It aims to achieve growth rate exceeding 4% per annum in agriculture sector based on efficient use of man-made and natural resources, including conservation of soil, equity in growth across regions, demand-driven growth in domestic market, and opportunity options in liberalized global market. The growth should be sustainable technically, environmentally, and economically. What are the instruments of the price policy? Basic instruments of the price policy in India are: one is minimum support price, that is, farmers are given some minimum support price so that they don't have to suffer sometimes low pricing and exploitation by the traders. Then consumer price stabilization is also one of the important instrument, keeping issue price below market price. That is, issue price must be below. That is one of the instrument of the price policy, that's issue price. Then public distribution system for distribution of essential food commodities through the fair price shops is again an instrument for price policy that will help in keeping the prices at the level which we wish. Subsidized farm inputs prices like irrigation, water, seeds, fertilizer, and pesticides. Other is public expenditure for agriculture technology to improve domestic supply through research. It was thought that because of the inadequate marketing facilities and attitude by the traders in the country, the farmers will not be able to obtain reasonable prices for their produce, even if they produce the commodities at most efficient level. Then I was telling that these are the three important things which are needed definitely for increasing the production in the country besides the price policy, that is agriculture, research, education and extension, soil and water conservation, harvesting on watershed program, and then rural infrastructure. Buffer stock building and operation, open market operation when needed is another instrument of the price policy. Then ACCIM policy, that is ACCIM measure to control rising or oblique falling prices through the suitable export-import duties and quantitative restrictions. Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices. Government of India appointed Food Price Commission under Dr. L.K. Jha, the chairman of this committee, to advise on determining prices, producers' price for food grains, and suitable terms of reference for an agency to advise the government on continuing basis. Thus, Agriculture Price Commission was set up in June 1965 to advise to government on prices and other related issues. The commission has a chairman, a member secretary, 2 official members, 3 non-official members, which are representative of the farming community. Its name was changed to Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices in March 1985. The Government of India now fixes the minimum support price for important food grains and other commodities based on recommendations by the CACP. Objectives and terms of reference of CACP, that is Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices. The objectives of this are to advise on prices and price policy in respect of important cereal, pulses, oilseeds, and some commercial crops like sugarcane, onion, potato, cotton, and jute. These are 24 commodities on which the recommendations is given by this. to recommend measures necessary to make price policy in respect of these commodities effective. Other objective is to examine the prevailing methods and cost of marketing across region and suggest measures to reduce marketing cost and recommend fair price margin for at different stages of marketing, to keep a watch on international prices and changes in terms of trade between agriculture and non-agriculture sector, to undertake or review the studies and collect the data which is necessary for helping the CACP in its objective. Now, how the prices are determined? The determination of the support prices by the CACP is as a comprehensive scheme for studying the cost of cultivation, production of principal crops was started in 1971-72 with a sample covering of 6,000 farm holdings, which was expanded to 9,000 in 1984-85 to obtain more realistic estimate of cost of cultivation of production. Some improvements were made since then. Unlike the past years, the same full sample was repeated in the subsequent years to avoid reliable estimate of cost of production based on subsample. Another improvement incorporated in the scheme was that of a crop complex rather than a single crop, forming the basis for sampling. These approaches have enabled the generation of the cost estimates of competing crops and make it possible to analyze the relative profitability of the crops. Cost concepts are cost A1, which is almost all the paid or valued inputs like human labor, and that is hired human labor, hired animal and machinery labor, value of the seeds, insecticides, manures and fertilizers, then depreciation on the implements, irrigation, land revenue, interest on working capital and miscellaneous other expenses which are paid to the artisans, etc. A2 cost will be equal to A1 plus the rent paid for the leased in land. B2 will be equal to cost A plus interest on value of owned fixed capital other than land. Then B2 cost is cost B1 plus rental value of owned land net of the land revenue and the rent paid for leased in land. The C1 cost will be equal to cost B1 plus imputed value of the family labor at prevailing wages, and C2 cost will be cost B2 plus imputed family labor at prevailing or minimum wages, whichever is higher. Now 10% of C2 is again added to the for the management of the inputs and the farm as such. Thus, the minimum support price is fixed on the basis of C2, which will include 10% for the cost of management of the inputs also. Now, since there is always some time lag in availability of the cost of production data, the CACP uses the input cost index to update the available estimate of the cost of production and also does the weighing of cost of production estimate available for the crop at the same time from the different states, that is a cost push approach. Considering the limitation of the cost of production approach, the CACP takes into account following more factors, that is trend in market price, demand and supply situation in the market, terms of trade between agriculture and non-agriculture sector, general price trend level, or likely effect on consumer, that is cost of living of the consumers, international market price trend and situation, intercrop parity and price paid and price received by the farmer, that is terms of trade, effect on issue and subsidy. What is the effect on the issue price and the subsidy by the minimum support price which is announced by the Commission? Most important relationship in this respect, which was considered legitimate by the National Commission on Agriculture, is that of the input-output prices. Inter-commodity price parity, effect of subsidy, and government views. These are three more important things which are taken into consideration, that is the commodity price, parity, effect on subsidy, and government views also taken, ministers and the department views are also taken on that. Parity price is really very important so that there is no disturbance in production of the crops which are not needed, which were important earlier, and which if we need to increase the production of a particular crop, then we can have the look at the parity, and that parity depending upon what we need can also be changed, and it will be helpful for putting or announcing the minimum support price. Effects of the price policy: it has led to the agriculture production, increase in agriculture production, change in cropping pattern, more of the cereals, but of course it may not be a very good thing for increasing the land on cereals only. Farmers are assured through minimum support price. This is one of the very important effect. Consumer basket, food basket has improved because of the pricing policy of the government of India. Prices are relatively more stable now as compared to the earlier situation. Because of this minimum support price or the efforts of the government, the country is able to produce now more than 255 million tons of the produce agricultural food grains, which was merely 51 million tons in 1950-51. If you see the index of the agriculture production, in 1950s it was 46.2, in 1970-71 it increased to 85.9, and 1991 it increased to 148.4, 2010-11 it increased to 221. In fact, it decreased that time relatively. Then 2014-15 it has increased to 130. Now, minimum support price which are announced by the government through on the recommendations of the CACPR, paddy price that was 1410 last year, it has been increased to 1470, and a bonus of 60 rupees is given on that. Then this is for the common paddy variety, and for grade A variety it is 1450 in 1915-16, which has increased now to 1510, and again the bonus of or increase of 60 rupees is there for the paddy grade A. Similarly, for jawar, hybrid and maldandi, it has increased from 1570 to 1625, giving a increase of 55 rupees for hybrid jawar, and similarly for maldandi it has increased from 1590 to 1650, again giving a benefit or increase of 60 rupees. Similarly, tur, moong dal, these are given lot of emphasis, and in fact now the government has raised the prices of the tur to 5050. For moong it has increased to 5225, and for urd it has given 5000. And there is a lot of improvement in price which government has announced for the pulses production. 425 rupees for each of these pulses is announced as the bonus for increasing or collecting more of the stock of these pulses. Gram has increased from 3175 to 3425. Similarly, cotton medium staple has increased from 3800 to 3860 rupees per quintal, and there is an increase of 60 rupees on the previous price. Similarly, prices of the oil seeds have also increased, and there is most of the time there is an increase of bonus of 100 rupees for all the pulses like sunflower, soya seed, sesame, Niger seed. Sesame prices has been more as compared to all other prices. It has increased to 5,000 instead, which was earlier 4,700, and there is again improvement of 100 rupees as bonus. And similarly, there is improvement for all many other commodities also during the current year. Now, what are the benefits of the minimum support price? Farmers are less exploited by the traders now, security to the farmers, bringing investment in agriculture, contributing in building buffer stock, large network of fair price shops giving employment. Thus, this is also important thing that employment has been raised through fair price shops which are owned by the government, and the employment is by way of that also to some extent, stabilizing prices line and consumer welfare. Then shortcoming of the agriculture price policy. Only limited commodities, agriculture commodities have been covered under this. Less remunerative prices for all commodities except for rice. It is understood that the agriculture policy has not been successful for many other commodities except for rice. Nevertheless, this is important in the current situation of the economy. It has failed to achieve the high price stability which was expected. There is distortion in PDS system, and because of the various type of the problems in the PDS system, it has not been able to working well. Nevertheless, this is important and serving a lot, especially the lower strata of the population of the country. Less number of markets are regulated. That's also one of the shortcomings. Now, new law has come into being under which some of the commodities could be sold at any place rather than the regulated markets only. Now, in spite of all these factors, in spite of all the efforts which the government has put for supporting the price, for increasing the production, there has been other factors which has led to the inflation in the food. If we see from 1971-72 to 1991, and then from 91-92 to 2009 and 10, the inflation rate for CPI, that is for agricultural labor consumer price index, has been nearly 7.79, and similarly for all these commodities it has never been more than 8%. In fact, for agriculture, for all agriculture, wholesale price index for all agriculture commodities has been 8.72, 6.51, and this that if we take 1971-72 to 2009-2010, it was 7.86. Summing up, it is fact that the agriculture price policy, especially minimum support price, has contributed significantly in increasing food production, especially cereals, but it could not have desired effect on the pulses and oilseeds production in spite of high minimum support price for them. And government has been continuously revisiting this, how to increase the production of the pulses and the oilseeds. The contribution of other factors like technical and technological, institutional reforms, tenancy, social factors, irrigation facilities, soil health and soil conservation, and role of credit cannot be ignored. It's not only the agriculture prices which has contributed to the high production, it is because of the various other factors also which are very important in raising the productivity and production of various crops. In fact, today we need to improve the productivity of agriculture in potential states or areas through investing in infrastructure facilities like irrigation, road, storage, communication, and above all areas suitable for the production of various commodities. One has to take into consideration the research and extension activities for raising this productivity. Minimum support price policy will then help in allocation of land to crops depending upon terms of trade. See, so in other words, the thing is that we have to increase the productivity, which is not because of this MSP only, but it is because of the various other factors which are very, very important in raising the productivity. Now, once the productivity is attained to some level which will give us maximum production, then we will be able to allocate the land available for cultivation for various agricultural commodities depending upon the price support which is given by the government. And however, a role of effective price policy in general to protect the farmers and consumers simultaneously is still valuable in India. This, we cannot do away with this policy, and it has still to continue for some time, so that both consumers and producers are benefited, and the country is able to feed the poor population in the country. Thank you.